do a brief presentation and then we'll open for questions or any suggestions. I'm the type of person that I do want feedback. I'd like to know if you feel that there's something we can do to better the program, or if there is a student that you may know of that's currently in need, please speak to one of us. Our team is in black here today, representing the HIGH program, and of course Laura, my executive assistant. So thank you again for coming. Do you want me to speak?
Oh, yeah, I was actually not speaking. I was just trying to be rude.
No.
No, it's feel like public speaking.
Welcome, ladies. Thank you. And let me know if you can hear me or if I need to speak a little louder. A little more. Is that better? Yes. Okay, great. Wayne State University's HIGH program. You've all made the difference. Carolyn, would you please stand and read Mr. Jacob's story for us? Carolyn is one of our previous volunteers, and she's also a Wayne State University student. Thank you for your participation.
This is Mr. Jacobs' story. When Mr. Jacob registered for fall 2014, he had received a Pell Grant, a handful of scholarships, and personal loans. Even with financial aid, Mr. Jacobs did not meet his balance. A hold would have been placed on his student account, withholding him from school and rendering him homeless. I don't know how I would have been able to register for classes the following semester with such an enormous debt, or I would have gotten kicked out of housing. The HIGH program was able to relieve Mr. Jacobs' balance so that he could continue taking classes and receive university housing. I am very thankful for the assistance that I have received. Mr. Jacob, Wayne State University Senior, 2015.
Thank you, Carolyn. I began the HIGH program shortly after arriving on campus in 2013. I learned about a student living in her car because she couldn't afford to pay for tuition and a place to live. I believe that no student should have to choose between higher education and survival. The HIGH program's mission is to ensure that no student abandons their dream of earning a degree solely because of housing or financial challenges. We provide short-term bridge funding to enable a student in crisis to get back on track. Our funding strategy focuses on filling a gap. We do not provide full semester support for housing, food, or academic services. According to a recent study conducted at Wayne State University by Carissa Carlson and Professor Paul Toro, homeless and precariously housed students reported living between 5 different places on average just within the last year. Nearly 25% of homeless and precariously housed students sampled in this study reported having been homeless with their parents while growing up. 40% of these students had utilized a homeless shelter. According to the study by Ms. Carlson and Professor Toro, a third of homeless and precariously housed students reporting having been physically abused while growing up. 87% of these students reported being in a romantic relationship that had been in a romantic relationship had been verbally violent from their partner. Verbal violence from their partner. 57% of these students reported that a romantic partner had been physically aggressive towards them. Nearly half of the homeless and precariously housed students reported that they needed to see a doctor but were unable to do so within the last 6 months. Imagine that. The impact. Within the last 6 months, precariously housed students experienced approximately 35 stressful life events compared to 8.5 stressful life events experienced by stably housed students. When asked what would have been helpful for students while they did not have stable housing, approximately 41% of the students indicated that help with housing and basic needs, as well as help with money and other resources, would have been most helpful. Bianca, would you please read Ramsey's story? Bianca is one of our newest interns at the HIGH program, and she's doing a phenomenal job focusing on marketing and our social media. Please, Bianca.
Ramsey's story. I honestly don't even know where the other road may have taken me, and I'm glad I don't have to find out. While going to school at Wayne State University, Ramsey found himself on the brink of eviction. Exhausted all possible options, Ramsey found himself at the mercy of friends who would let him crash on their couches. That's when the HIGH program stepped in. The HIGH program saved me. They covered student loans so that I wouldn't have to suffer while in school.
Thank you. The Mcgregor Fund is a private foundation established in 1925 by Tracy Mcgregor and his wife Catherine Whitney Mcgregor. All funds will be used towards providing students with support with the necessities they need, such as housing, food, transportation, textbooks, and others. The Sean Anderson Foundation was created by Detroit native rapper Big Sean. This donation alone will assist 16 students with an average award of $1,500 towards housing, tuition, textbooks, etc. Myra Anderson, President, Sean Anderson Foundation, quote, "We see the HIGH program as an important component of ensuring success at Wayne State, and we are proud to help strengthen its mission. We aim to boost graduation rates at the university by providing support to students facing hardships." Thank you, Myra. Since the HIGH program began in 2013, it has received over 300 applications for assistance and has helped over 130 students with financial support or direct referrals to an alternative funding source. These numbers continue to grow. Wayne State's 6-year graduation rate now exceeds 38%, which is up at least 12 percentage points over the past 5 years. Wayne State is in the top 20 public institutions nationally for rate of improvement over the past 4 years. Overall, enrollment is up for the first time in 7 years. This year, we welcome our largest group of new students, 7,346 to be exact. Thanks, Lord. which is the most in recent years, and 2.5% increase over last year's large incoming class. Current enrollment is 27,326 students. Improved enrollment and retention rates project continued growth and success. HIGH program awards an average of about $1,500, and we want to get to the point where we can aid up to at least 50 students per year. But in order to do that and to reach that point, we are going to need short and long-term investments to stabilize our revenue stream and create an endowment of $5 million. Everyone in this audience can help a Wayne State student today. Whether it's through making a donation, no matter how big or small, or becoming a volunteer and donating your time with our program, you have the ability to change a life of a student.
Hi, my name is Amara Mcgee. I am a senior here at Wayne State University. I recently graduated on May 5th, 2016 with cum laude honors. My major is political science, and with that I plan to go to law school, and next I want to become district attorney, hopefully, and also become a judge. Now I have 8 credits left, so I only officially finished with Wayne State University in August of 2016. I started my journey here at Wayne State University in September of 2012. When I first started, I immediately got a job on the campus. I immediately got involved, and I also, I really focused on my studies. With my first year, my financial aid was really good. It covered everything from housing to meal plan to tuition. Coming my sophomore year is when I began to see a struggle. With the tuition hike that happened that year, it was like my money stayed the same, but the tuition prices went up, including housing and including the meal plans. So from there, I got a second job, so I was working 2 jobs, and I was also on a payment plan to finish paying off of my balance. And that occurred for my sophomore year as well as my junior year. And with that, I was doing everything I could to make ends meet. I would lower my meal plan from 12 to 5, or I would just all around just canceled it. So over the last summer, my best friend told me about the HIGH program. She's like, oh, maybe you should apply to this, because I was not getting any scholarships, and I couldn't understand why, because my grades were really good. I was on the dean's list multiple times. I was getting 4.0s, but I could not understand why I was not receiving any scholarships. So I applied to the HIGH program it was maybe late July, early August, and I was stunned to receive an email back stating that the HIGH program was interested in my story and they would love to help me. With that, coming last year at Wayne State University, my prices were really high because I had a lot of credits. I was trying to graduate, and like I said, the financial aid, it didn't match my cost. So the HIGH program that came in, they paid for my housing, they paid off my housing, and they also paid off my tuition balance. Without that, I don't know where I would have been without the HIGH program. I would have maybe had to get another job. I don't even think that I would have been able to carry on paying out of pocket, constantly working so hard. I was also very involved in campus. I ran a dance team, and I was also a part of a student organization. So with the HIGH program, it stepped in and allowed me to enjoy my last year here at Wayne State University. I did not have to worry about, if I got to make these payments, or do I have the money to even make the payments. I think that the HIGH program is very essential to this campus. It brings a different type of scholarship to Wayne State University. It picked an individual like me who was not really known on campus. I don't know why I was chosen, honestly, but I feel like students like me, who isn't involved in sororities or fraternities, or who doesn't have perfect grades, we get noticed, and that's why I'm really appreciative for the HIGH program.
Thank you. So, any questions you may have for me or my staff, and welcome questions or comments or recommendations. Yes, I'm sorry. Did you vote?
What are the qualifications for a student to qualify for assistance from the program?
Great question. Primarily, we focus on students that are homeless or precariously housed. That's our first mission. In addition to that, we require a 2.5 grade point average minimum. They have to be currently registered in that semester. We've had a few students that have applied to the program, and unfortunately, they weren't currently registered, so ultimately, they don't qualify. But those are the requirements. We have help with housing, tuition, dental care, textbooks, so we do our best to help if we can. We don't like to be the last no that they hear.
Thank you for your presentation. You talked a little bit about some of the referrals that you've made. Can you tell us a little bit about those partnerships and how you're going to meet organizations?
Absolutely, great question. Our biggest partner is financial aid. Many times students will apply to the HIGH program and not realize that their refund is coming. So they'll apply in desperation, trying to figure out what to do, uncertain of the future, so they'll apply. And then we'll request some additional information from them, like maybe specific dollar amounts and where those funds would ultimately go to. At that point, we don't hear back from the student. We give them another template letter that says, okay, if we don't hear back from you, let's say in 5 or 8 days, we're going to have to close your account. and then they'll reach out and say, oh, I got my refund, you know. So fortunately, we've been able to refer a lot of students back to financial aid, and they qualify for either a loan or there's monies on the way if they can just wait it out a little bit. In addition to that, we've worked with several off-campus facilities for shelter. So we look to reach out to a shelter when a student comes to us and they're homeless. Ideally, you know, we want to have facilities here on campus, but that's not the case right now. We're fully occupied with all the residential housing. So we do have a facility that's somewhat off-site for females that we're able to put some female students in. We're working towards looking at finding a male facility for similar occupancy. Ultimately, President Wilson has approved, I'm sure you've all read about the 800 new dorms that are going to be built. Ideally, and I'm going to hold you to this, he said that the high program will be allocated 10 rooms mixed in with all the other students, and they would be reserved and paid for by donors for high program students. So that's my ultimate dream, is to have that. We also work with CAPS, our mental and health facility here. Our veterans, we work with that department. We also work with our disability department and TIPS. I mean, there are many others, but those just to name a few. Yes, ma'am?
Does the high program pertain only to undergrads, and also does it give any money to post-baccalaureate students, or you have a working on a master's if they're enrolled in a master's program?
Thank you for your question. It's open to all. And ideally, most of the post or graduate students, there are loans that they can qualify for. So we've been able to work with financial aid and refer them to a Graduate Plus loan, I think it's called. Many of the students had no idea that it was even available. But if indeed they're homeless and they're in need, we'll do our best to help them out.
Do they have to be homeless?
Well, preferably. Or dealing with a homeless type situation or a negative home environment. We've helped people that aren't homeless, that just have tuition needs, but that's really not the focus of the program. Okay, any other questions? Yes?
So you sort of mentioned within the university sort of initiatives that sort of partner with the HIGH program. Are there any outside of the university initiatives like COTS or the Preaching Institute or that sort of help combat the issue of homelessness is working with the university, or is this something maybe in the pipeline that can be, you know, a future initiative?
Well, I met with COTS, OASIS, Detroit Rescue Mission, NSO when I initially came to the university, because I realized there was no housing available. So if we did have to refer a student, I wanted to be able to at least put a call into that shelter and say, we have a student coming over, can you please look out for him? So they all agreed to do so. So we do partner with the local shelters. We work with gleaners where if a student is in need of food, we can refer them over to gleaners. Honestly, 9 times out of 10, the student does not have transportation. So there's been instances where I'll actually go and purchase food for the student, you know, at Whole Foods or Myers or whatever, and, you know, take it to them. So we partner with as many as possible. And the more awareness that the program has now, it helps, because more people are saying, how can I help? I'd love to donate this. I have a house, my kids are out of college, we can use the basement for students. So the word has gotten out, and it's good. Mary?
What's the application process like? How do they do it, and how long does it take?
Okay. Initially, it was pretty horrible. It was a paper process, and students would say, oh, I filled out my application, I turned it into the Welcome Center or financial aid, and we're like, we've never seen it, we don't know where the application is. So fortunately, through working very closely with financial aid, we were able to have an online application process. And that's really made the world of difference for the process time and just being able to make sure that students are taken care of as quickly as possible. So any student can go online, fill out the application, and ask for some pertinent information. One of the key things is that they do have to sign and give me authorization to review their records. So because of the FERPA laws with universities and colleges, it's important. They have to do that first. If a student calls the HIGH program, I can't even talk to them. because I don't have authorization to speak about their accounts or their records or their grades or whatever. So that's the initial process. So a student is welcome to remain anonymous. All we ask for, they don't have to pay 1 penny back. All we ask for is a testimonial letter, because that actually helps us with other students hearing their stories. And in addition to that, it helps us with donors to be able to keep the program sustainable and long-term. Generally, a student will fill out an application. We get it. I have it set up where we get applications once a week. We get anywhere from 6 to 10 a week. So we go through that whole application process. We do 3 things first. We look to see if they're currently registered, if they have a 2.5 grade point average, and kind of read their story to see what the situation is. At that point, we usually will process whether it's a template letter saying, here are some other resources, unfortunately you don't qualify, give us some more information like dollar amounts within 2 to 3 days, right? That's our ideal time. If indeed we pay out to help the student, we usually do that in a week. So we already know they're in a crisis situation, so they don't need a long-term, debate on if they should be assisted or not. If we cannot award them anything, I want them to know as soon as possible so they can look at these other resources we might be able to refer them to. One other thing I learned from Hard Knocks, I guess the School of Hard Knocks, that we don't give the students any cash directly. All funds go directly to the end user. So if they are looking at an apartment or residential housing, if it's an outside vendor, then they have to actually register as a vendor with Wayne State. We cut a check, send it directly to the landlord. If indeed they need school or textbooks, we go to Barnes & Noble, we have a PO, we do an IRB, it goes directly to, if they need food, I'll go and get it at Whole Foods or whatever. So we learn just from past experiences that it's best to just help the student to facilitate things by paying directly to the end user. Any other questions, suggestions, or recommendations? She's actually getting credit for coming here.
I saw that you mentioned volunteer. So what type of, physical volunteer would you need? Like what type of work would they be doing with the volunteer?
Okay, great, because I have 5 volunteers. So I'm going to have Melanie stand up and just give you, please Melanie, and just tell you a little bit about what some of the volunteer opportunity is and why you volunteer. Melanie.
Hi everybody, my name is Melody Andrews and I'm new to the HIGH program. I started in August and I do photography and digital video for the HIGH program. I get credit too. We do everything together. We have a really great group and everybody smiles and everybody's willing to pitch in and help. So we pretty much, basically we can wear everybody's hats. Social media, marketing, research.
Melody actually helped with the video you saw here. So we do our own in-house videos. We do everything. We did a series of, thank you Melody, we did a series of photography going out because we wanted to show the real life of homelessness. And it's right around us. It's all around us. So we did like a 5-hour photo shoot where we went out and spoke with some, unfortunately homeless people on the street. And they were just giving suggestions to students on how not to end up like us. So it depends on what your desires are, but we have up to 10 now, 10 that are volunteering on a regular basis. That's internship, volunteering, and work study. So we do have 2 positions for work study. So where if you can qualify for work study, you're welcome to as well. Yes, sir?
For students that are first semester that don't have established GPAs, but may find themselves in unstable housing, is there any support for those students?
Those students make me cry the most because unfortunately it's not a whole lot that we can do because the guidelines are the guidelines. And so what I've done, I've met quite recently with the provost, our housing, financial aid, and our student advisors to say, this is not the program for those students. they should be made aware prior to coming to the university, kind of what the expectations are financially. So we're all partnering together to make sure that that message is getting delivered to students. What I would normally do is reach out to our our financial aid director and say, this is a freshman. I mean, this is quite honestly unacceptable to me, because they should have known, or somebody should help them before they have a $7,000 balance. So we're working to help to alleviate that. It's a huge difference from last year when I was experiencing getting like 10 freshmen, coming in and they didn't budget right, they didn't know, and then boom, they can't register because they have a balance. So that problem has minimized a lot, and I know the Provost is working diligently to help alleviate that for students, because that is, if you change it for one, you got to change it for others. And the 2.5 was basically a requirement that donors want it, simply because people that are at least at a 2.5 have a better, opportunity or chance to graduate. Yes.
Hi, I'm a representative from the Transition to Independence Program, the
Oh,
TIP
great.
program that you mentioned. My question is, you kind of spoke on it with his comment, but as far as not being registered, some of the students that we serve, they're aged out of the foster care system, and housing on campus is like their only resort for housing, and so if they have a previous balance that can't be relieved and they're kind of out on the street, is there any flexibility that can be made as far as those students, as far as needing to be registered in order to qualify? Because sometimes high is the only alternative. We are currently working on trying to make some improvements or provisions in our program where we can assist with housing, but right now you are one of the referral sources, so that's just my question. Is there something that can be done in those situations where on-campus housing is the only option for them?
That is another tearjerker for me, because I work very closely with Angelique Day, and I understand the plight of the aging out of foster care students. One of the things that I know President Wilson implemented first on when we started hearing about these students was simply that a student should not be able to register with just a $200 balance. There has to be some way to rectify that situation. So I know one of the things that we do is we connect them with the payment plan group, where they can potentially make a payment plan, and maybe they'd be able to, definitely we ask them to waive the late fees, and so they may be able to, once they start a payment plan, get that hold off. My understanding is that's what's implemented now, and as long as they're registered, they have the 2.5, boom, 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 then they can apply for the program. So that was an issue initially, and I know he was furious about the fact that this was holding up a student from moving forward. So I know that there's things been put in place. It may not be perfect yet, but I know it's moving in the right direction. Yeah, I changed it. I thought they did. He said he did.
At least like the low balances or whatever, they'll work with you, and a lot of it is just late fees.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they'll work with you, so
And if the high program awards a student, fortunately, they immediately waive the late fees. So, the balance is brought down to help, make sure that they're able to hopefully pay it. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Mary? Oh, speaking of Mary, stand up, Mary.
I'm not a plant, I'm just.
Mary is our director of philanthropy for the high program, and she, I mean, I hate to say this, but she's a superstar. She does an outstanding job. She's been able to help bring awareness. She's out there speaking on the program, talking to our donors and potential donors, and just letting people know the benefit of helping the high program. So, thank you.
Well, first I have a question related to fundraising, and that is, if a person gives $100 to high, how much of that goes right to the students?
You see why I love her? When I missed something, she was right on it. 100% goes to the students. We have a small operating budget, which Laura's salary comes out of. I work for free, and which I don't want. But every dime goes to the students, and that was one thing I said was just mandatory for me, because I don't want a donor to give something to the high program and then it's paying for bags or marketing material, whatever. So we usually take the paper from the alumni house. We're able to get our printing done, but yeah, every dime that comes into the program goes to our students. Yes.
It's great to see some big donations, but what's kind of the most common size of donation?
Well, any size donation is really appreciated, I must say. When we're out working with students and at events, we do have what is called our little mobile pay machine, and it can be increments of $1, $5, $10. We appreciate whatever anyone can give. I would say the average donation from either an employee or staff is probably $100. There's some people that would like to have it monthly deducted as their annual giving for a particular cause. We do have a drop down under giving for the high program. So quite honestly, any gift. I mean, we have our $5 already programmed in. So if a student's able to give, or faculty or whoever, just, you know, everything means something, because $200 is going to help a student with books. Where for some of us, we may think, oh, they don't have $200. Well, yeah, no, we're all a couple of paychecks away from being homeless if you really, really think about it. If you lose your job, you get sick, a death in the family, you know, we're all facing it ultimately. Well, thank you all. I really appreciate your time and energy. And I know this is just one day, but if you have any suggestions, please email us at the email address above and spread the word. You know, we'd like to help if we can. Thank you so much.
I'd like you to know that at the back here, there's some envelopes as you're leaving. You can pick up an envelope and consider donating.
Merci.